on, guys? Welcome back to week 15 of Premier League predictions. Say what up, Eric.
What up?
And we got a lot of football, my bad. Almost said soccer. That's a curse word. Got a lot of football going on this week. We got week 15, and then Friday we have week 16. So we got a lot of predictions to make here. Eric, you ready?
Yeah.
In a very eventful, maybe uneventful week 14, quite a few draws. We went 4-6, so predictions not too good, but not terrible. But let's get it kicked off for week 15. We got the Wolves versus Burnley. Burnley coming off a 5-0 win.
Yeah, so that's a really good showing from Burnley, and it's kind of what they needed really to, show signs of life with how they've been performing this year. Having a 5-0 win over Sheffield's really good for them, and it shows that they are still around and here to play. They are going up against Wolves, though, and it's going to be a really tough match for them, primarily just because Wolves, yes, they did lose 2-1 to Arsenal last week, but Wolves have put up with, all of the big clubs this year. They've been playing really well. They have the potential to just come out and go absolutely ballistic, and I think that's going to be really tough for Burnley to kind of deal with this week. So honestly, I think this week is relatively straightforward for both teams. I think the Burnley needs to keep the hype rolling, keep moving, keep scoring goals. Yeah, they were playing against a 10-man Sheffield squad for a little bit, but take nothing away from a 5-0 win. That's a good play from Burnley, and they did what they needed to do. But I think they're going up against a Wolves team that just outperforms them this season so far. I'm, plenty welcome for surprise here, but I think that Wolves is going to take the win. Just based off the track record, they've been able to keep up with a lot of big clubs this year, and I think that they're just going to keep rolling.
Yeah, I agree with what you say there. Burnley, although they had a great showing, got to keep in mind that was just a Sheffield United squad, and as you said, 10-minute. But I mean, still good for Burnley, but sadly for them, I'm going with the Wolves. I got the Wolves. But moving on, we got Luton coming off a win, right? And they're facing Arsenal.
No, so Luton lost last week,
They got the
3-1 to
win the
Brentford
week before.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Luton's been having their up-down kind of season so far. So like we've been saying, Luton's kind of been on that uphill climb recently, and they've been getting better and better. But unfortunately, they met their match last week against Brentford with a 3-1 loss, which is unfortunate to see from from Luton. But they did put up a goal, and I think that it's a good showing, even though it's not really what you want to see if you're a Luton fan. But putting up a goal against Brentford, making it a little bit competitive, keeping the score, I say relatively low. 3 goals isn't great, but keeping the score within 3, it's it could be a lot worse. But this is going to be a really rough week. I'm just going to be, pretty blunt here. You're going up against an Arsenal squad who won 2-1 over Wolves and currently lead the table. So, I mean, it's going to be really tough for Luton to, play tough game here. But I think that, honestly, if you're looking at this, I don't think that you're expecting to take a win this week. But I think that Luton can still continue to get better and perform well and then start looking for the next weeks to come. But I think this is an Arsenal win.
You think it's an Arsenal win? Well, I got an interesting perspective for you. Luton at home against Liverpool takes a draw. Then they go on the road against Man United, take a 1-0 loss. They come back home, beat Crystal Palace at home. Then on the road, they lose to Brentford. Now they're coming back home against Arsenal. They're going to get a draw. They're going to get a big-time draw here, Eric.
That's fair, yeah.
So they're playing well at home, so their supporters, they're really getting behind them. So that's good for them. Exciting stuff. But yeah, it's going to be tough nonetheless, but I want to pull for a Luton a little bit and go for a draw at least. Moving on.
Yeah, that's fair.
We got Brighton versus Brentford. Brighton's going to have their hands full with a hot Brentford squad.
Yeah, so Brighton took a 2-3 loss to Chelsea last week, which is kind of rough to see, but Chelsea's been playing their real, roller coaster ride of a season where they'll just go off one week and then drop the next week. So it's kind of really tough to gauge how they're going to play against the squad, and I think that Brighton did well putting the score up, keeping it close, getting the 2-3. Yeah, it's a loss, but, you played well. And, Chelsea, like we said, roller coaster of a season. You never know how they're really going to play. They're going up against Brentford, who, yes, we said, took the 3-1 win over Luton, had a good performance, has been playing better. I think that they have a really solid chance here of making it a really good game. I don't know exactly what's going to happen though entirely because I think you really have to look in this game at what's going to happen in terms of like midfield and control. I think that, granted, stats say this all the time, but I think really it's going to come down to who controls the pace of the game more in this. And I think that honestly, it's going to be tough to tell. I think that Brighton probably has the better odds of keeping possession and making plays, but I really like Brentford's attack and their ability to kind of slip in and get a nice play every once in a while. I think I'm going to take a draw this week though, but I think both teams are really open for surprises.
Yeah, I really like that pick. I'm kind of in the same boat. I really don't know which way it's going to go. I kind of just want to go with the exciting pick and go Brentford. I'm just going to go with a little bit of underdog action. Um,
Yeah.
they've been playing solid, so I'll just go with them. Moving on, we got Crystal Palace versus Bournemouth.
Yeah, so this is another interesting one. So both of these teams took draws last week. Crystal Palace took the 1-1 with West Ham. That was a good showing for both teams, and I think that game played out fairly well. And Bournemouth took a 2-2 draw against Villa, which is a really good showing for them. Bournemouth going in, putting up a 2-2 game with the number 4 team in the table right now, playing well, competing with Villa, keeping them to 2 goals, and putting up 2 of their own is a really good showing from Bournemouth. And I think that they have a really good hot streak running right now, and that they can keep this rolling. Crystal Palace took a little bit of a dip last week against West Ham, a 1-1 draw, lower scoring game. But honestly, I think it was a good showing from both teams, and I think that it really comes down again to just getting opportunities and making chances. And I think that granted, it all comes down to that, but I think that Crystal Palace has the ability to really go in and make chances. But I think if I'm just gunning off of these two teams right now, Crystal Palace is probably the safer bet. They've been playing a little more consistently at a higher level. But honestly, I think with coming off of a 2-2 draw against Villa, which, yeah, it's not a win, but it's a really good performance, I'm taking Bournemouth this
Dang it!
week.
I was also going to take the wild card, Bournemouth.
Yeah, fair
Alright.
enough.
Alright. Moving on, we got Fulham versus Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, so we got Fulham, who took a 3-4 loss to Liverpool last week. It was a really high scoring game, a lot of interesting plays, and a lot of high intensity football, and it was really good to watch. I think if you're Fulham, you have to take that and be happy with the result. You took a 3-4 loss. Yeah, it's a loss, but you put up 3 goals against Liverpool. I think that though, if you're Fulham, you really have to look at tightening your defense a little bit and trying to prevent a few more goals. Granted, yes, you are playing against Liverpool. It's going to happen, but I think if you're Fulham, you really need to tighten up the defense a little bit and try and stop some of those chances. But I think that Fulham really needs to take away from that game that they did very well. They are going up against Nottingham Forest, who has a tendency to just really come out of nowhere. They also have the tendency to just play kind of consistently at a mid-level, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens this week. But Nottingham did take the 1-0 loss to Everton last week, so you know take it with a grain of salt. I think that Nottingham has the ability to kind of come back, but they did lose to an Everton team that's kind of been on the rise, and you're looking around what's going on here. I think that between these two teams, though, if you're looking at Fulham, who played a really good game against Liverpool, yeah, a couple of mistakes here and there, and a Nottingham team who's been playing consistently well-ish, but they have their down moments. I think I'm going to take Fulham this week.
Fulham? That's a solid pick. Yeah, I'm going to have to also agree with you there on Fulham. Nottingham Forest just ain't convincing me enough. Fulham has. So, going with Fulham.
Yeah.
Alright, moving on. We have upset of the year coming. We got Sheffield United versus Liverpool.
Yeah.
There's not
So
much to talk about.
after Sheffield's defeat last week, 5-0 to Burnley, I'm not. I'm just going to be blunt here. I'm not looking much from Sheffield here. I think that Liverpool is pretty much just going to go back to playing their game. They're going to clean up a couple of the mistakes that they made up against Fulham, and they're just going to come into next week rolling. They're in the second spot of the table. They're looking to shoot for first. You can't slip up. I think that Liverpool just goes all out on Sheffield, takes the win.
Oh, yeah. I'd put my money on Liverpool this weekend.
Yeah.
Or week, I should say. But Aston Villa versus Man City. I think Man City's going to get a comeback win here. They're going to need it. And they're going to get a good one against Aston Villa.
Yeah, so you get the number 3 and the number 4 going at it. Like we said, Villa took the 2-2 draw with Bournemouth, and City took the 3-3 draw with Spurs. So the top of the table is having a really tough time moving very much. But it just going off of what's happening, you have just raw statistics. City looks really good. They've been playing very well. They make their mistakes. They had their mistake against Chelsea. They had their mistake against Spurs. There was some controversy over the end of that game, but the game is the game. The ref blew the whistle. It is what it is. But I think the City has a very good chance of winning this game. I think that Villa also has a very good chance of just breaking away. I think that's really going to come down to crucial moments and who can make those critical plays and who can make chances out of nothing. But I really think it's going to come down to the midfields and the attack and see if they can make chances probably where there shouldn't be any, because I think that City's going to have a lockdown defense, and I think that the way that Villa have been playing really well, especially in the midfield, it's going to be tough to keep control and have consistency for City. So I think it's going to be a really good game to watch, and I think it's going to be a really tough game to predict.
Man.
The thing is, City should have this, but City has been slipping up against some of the top clubs. I think I'm going to take a draw this week.
Oh, there you go. 2 draws in 1 week. All right, Man United versus Chelsea. This is going to be a tough one.
Yeah, so this is kind of an important game too, though. So Newcastle beat United 1-0. So United's coming off of a loss going into this week. It's going to be rough for them. They need to start performing again and get better. They're going up against a Chelsea team, though, that's been playing well and has that, like I said earlier, roller coaster season. They took a 3-2 win over Brighton, which is a really good showing from Chelsea. So really, this game is a toss-up, entirely dependent on how Chelsea plays on the day. If Chelsea's having one of their great days where they're performing well, which they tend to do against higher clubs like Spurs and City, and I think that Chelsea has the ability to come back and play really well against United this week. I think that you're also having to look at United, slipping up against Newcastle, but a couple weeks ago they were playing really well. They had all the pieces moving in the right direction, and I think they just need to shift back to what they were doing a couple of weeks ago, and they should be fine. But honestly, this is another game that's going to be really interesting to see. It really just depends on both teams' performances on the day, because they are so, they fluctuate a lot week to week, and it's really just going to depend on the day. I think on the day, though, they're going to take a draw.
You think another draw? 3 draws?
I'm feeling the draws this week.
I'm going with Manchester United. I'm just throwing something out there and hoping it sticks. I don't know.
That's a fair shout.
But we'll see. And then moving on to Everton Newcastle. I'm just going with an Everton win because I want Everton to win.
Okay, I'll take a free point on this one. So I'm going to take Newcastle. I think that you're looking at two teams here. Newcastle have been playing well. They've been playing consistently well. Yeah, so has Everton. Both of these teams have been playing very well. They've been consistently getting better. The thing is, Newcastle has been consistently playing well at a high level. Everton is just starting to get their slope going upwards and starting to, get the momentum and start to get on the rise. And I think that's going to be a good thing for them in the future. But I think I'd rather take the high-level consistency of Newcastle versus the up-and-coming, great performances that we're seeing out of Everton. So even though Everton did take the 1-0 win over Nottingham and Newcastle took the 1-0 win over United, I think that it should be a really good game to see, and I think it's really going to show us a lot about what these two teams are looking like, especially right now, whether Everton can continue to become a better and better squad, as the weeks progress, or whether, Newcastle's going to, drop a little bit. I think it's going to be a really interesting and important game to kind of watch and see what happens. But I think I'm going to take a Newcastle win.
Hey, Everton beat Aston Villa in the third round of the Carabao Cup.
Yeah.
They're going to beat Newcastle. Just watch.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, now we got Tottenham versus West Ham.
Yeah, so Spurs took the 3-3 draw with City last week. That was a decent showing from both teams. Really high scoring game, kind of what you expected from those two teams going into it. They're going up against West Ham, who took the 1-1 draw with Crystal Palace. I think that West Ham probably could have and should have put up a couple more goals, maybe had the opportunity, but Crystal Palace isn't a team to overlook. They are a tough team to play against, and I think that West Ham did a good job getting the draw. It's rough though. They are going up against Spurs, who have the ability to just kind of pop off and play really well. And I think that this is just going to be one of those weeks that Spurs click. They're going to roll off of that City draw. They're looking to stay high up in the table and keep getting the points. They're sitting at the 5 right now, but they're within striking distance of everybody. I think that Spurs aren't going to let themselves drop these points, and I think that Spurs are going to take the win.
You know what? I was thinking the same exact thing. I think that even though it was a draw and you're not satisfied with a draw there as Tottenham, I think that's kind of a confidence booster in the fact you're like, okay, we're still competing with top dogs. And I think they're just more of a top dog than West Ham right now. So I'm going Tottenham as well.
Yep.
So that wraps up our Week 15 predictions. Hopefully we do a little better, but we'll be right back at you guys quickly on Thursday, right?
Friday.
Friday. I keep thinking Thursday. Friday we'll be back out with Week 16 predictions. So we'll get a quick recap of Week 15. And we're just going to have lots of football. It's going to be great. I hope you guys enjoyed this week. If you have any of your predictions, let us know down below. Comment your thoughts, opinions, or anything you have about this coming week. And share this video with everybody you know. Just share it with everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
See you.